Good morning. Welcome to Threat Watch, the Lumifi Cyber weekly podcast where we're going to chat about significant events of the week, all pulled from the Infosec Insider Daily News Blast with articles that are pulled from, hey, all the things that you read. I'm Mike Hamilton. I'm one of the Lumifi field CISOs and formerly CISO of Seattle, policy advisor for Washington State, a bunch of other stuff. Today, I'm chatting with Fred Langston, Lumifi's Senior VP of Professional Services. Fred, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Just got back from the Barrett-Jackson auction. That was a blast.
That was a blast. Getting up on stage and having the cars roll up right in front of us. Okay, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I had a good time there. You and I did a webinar yesterday too on introducing professional services to Lumifi customers. I thought that went well. And you and I are going to see each other next week in Scottsdale. You and I live probably a 30-minute drive from each other, and we only see each other when we go to Scottsdale, which is
right. We got to go a couple thousand miles.
We do. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about a few things pulled from the newsletter. What do you want to talk about?
Sure. Well, there's one that's got me pretty freaked out. We should talk about the changes in federal policy. Frankly, that's completely changing the government's approach to cybersecurity. I think you mentioned in your YouTube short, the Cybersecurity Review Board, the CSRB, is no more. It has been disbanded. Hundreds of years of experience. Basically, the A team that is protecting our cyber infrastructure was vanished overnight. The board was investigating Salt Typhoon. I think probably the most impactful cyber espionage campaign ever. And that has been suspended, ended. I don't know. It's canceled. And then there's all sorts of other executive orders that are affecting cybersecurity. What's going on here, Mike? I know the Democrats, they were on the Cybersecurity Surveillance Watchdog Board, and they were shown the door. I thought this stuff was nonpartisan. What's happening?
Well, so there's a U.S. surveillance watchdog agency, right? And their members were fired. Yes, they were Democrats after refusing to resign. And I don't know if this means they weren't good at their jobs, this is just government downsizing, or if they, terminated the entire function. But this board was a critical check on government surveillance powers, right? Remember Section 702, and they said it was unconstitutional, and, hey, we've been snooping on Americans, and okay, this is pretty bad for privacy if that's actually true, that it's been completely shut down. We also know that the agency inside DHS that was focused on foreign disinformation that affected our elections was shut down. So the next election is going to be rife with that stuff. But the one that's bugging me is the suspension of grant funding, and that directly affects the state local cyber grant program, which is a huge benefit to local governments. Not only local governments, but also the nonprofits that are all working on creating a cyber workforce and aiding, small down market organizations. They're all blowing in the wind right now. So, the impact here is potentially pretty broad, and it affects everything from government surveillance to the availability of the practitioners that we need,
Yeah, this is amazing in the sense that the people that seem to need it the most to protect themselves now are having the rug pulled out from underneath them. What does this mean? Well, I guess there was a stay order. A judge said, you know what, we're not going to allow you to just randomly cut that off. But you're running the Pisces nonprofit. For those that don't know what Pisces is, it's a project that assists doing cyber monitoring for local governments for free. Using students at universities, and they use this as part of live fire curriculum at the universities. Is Pisces going to be affected by this?
Not so far, not from what we can tell. A long time ago, we developed a sustainment strategy that's focused on getting off of federal funding, right? Because it's toxic, and moving support to the states where Pisces operates. Now, some of that state funding is state local cyber grant money, so we'll have to see. But I think we were far enough ahead of that curve to survive this. A lot of nonprofits won't. If this thing goes forward, and thank goodness for the judge, issuing that stay order. But still, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of uncertainty right now, and there's people's jobs at stake.
Yeah, scary stuff. Let's shift a little bit here, and I think this is fascinating. Let's talk about MGM. Back in the news.
Not in a good way.
Not in a good way. Huge data breach a year and a half ago. Of course, Caesars had a very similar thing, and this is where the compare and contrast I want you to kind of go into. But they're going to pay $45 million to settle a class action lawsuit on the data breach. Why is MGM paying? Caesars apparently is not paying. And if you remember correctly, back when this happened, Caesars paid a ransom. MGM did not. So is this
Right.
the where the bad guys are starting to say, you know what? We released the data because you didn't give us a ransom, and now they're stuck paying this huge class
Yep.
action
Right.
settlement.
I mean, so this whole class action suit, which always follows a records disclosure, is a powerful motivator, right? So yes, Caesars paid the game $15 million to get their network back, right? MGM told them to pound sand and decided to restore from backup and probably lose some data, right? So that cost them $100 million to do that. So the gang, which was identified later and called Scattered Spider, is staffed by teens and 20 somethings in the US and UK. Okay. Now they made the records public because of the failure to pay that demand. And now there are everywhere attorneys that are staring at computer screens waiting for record disclosure reports to immediately jump on a class action suit. Sure enough, so $100 million for building back, $45 million to settle the lawsuit. Now, compared to what Caesars paid to recover, what message does that send? Right? Pretty obvious,
Well,
right?
yeah, clearly paying the ransom is the cheapest way out. But look, we've all been there, Mike. You know the story. We caution anyone that really thinks that that is actually true. It's just not, folks.
Right, that they're
Caesar's
going to
records make
destroy the records if you pay them, right?
Yeah,
That's, yeah,
exactly.
you can't count on
They're
that.
criminals. They're criminals. I mean, they did the worst thing possible by coming in and stealing or ransomware, and they're going to hold your records because they're such nice, ethical people.
Hmm.
That's not really making much sense to me. And then you did bring up a couple other things we should probably talk about it. Maybe not today, but this Gen Z U.S. threat.
Yeah.
This is new, man. This is we're facing our own people all of a sudden. Is that really the way things are at right now?
Yeah, that's a game changer too, because, once upon a time, everybody was on the other side of the world, right? All the bad guys were, in Eastern Europe and Russia, right? Now they're domestic, which means they have proximity. So they could do things like fly drones around your building to crack your Wi-Fi and throw USB sticks in your parking lots and bathrooms and stuff like that. And there's even been, reports of how they get violent. So, uh, you know, this is something that we need to watch. It's to a certain extent, I gotta say, and we will talk about this later, but if you're Gen Z, you're being told that it doesn't make sense to go into a debt for a 4-year degree. The planet's trying to kill us. The wheels are coming off democracy. And why not go into crime, right? So, I think we need to deal with some of the motivation issues around that, but we'll come back to that later.
Yeah, yeah, and the other part and I feel a little bit culpable here. The private right to action. For people that don't know what that means,
Yeah.
HIPAA set the stage or the precedent where you don't actually have to be hurt by a data breach. Nobody has to actually use your data, steal your identity for you to bring cause and bring a class action lawsuit against it. Is this a good idea? I know you feel it's kind of crazy. I might be on the side where I still understand the validity of that, but how do you feel about that, Mike? Is that
So I'm
crazy?
always, we serve a lot of healthcare, and I'm always going to go to the hospitals, right? So first of all, this cyber incident is foreseeable, right? You're not going to keep these guys out. We're outmatched, okay? So so admit that, and then the challenge becomes your resilience, right? How do you take that punch and get back up, right? How do you get back to 100% operational capacity? Well, if records are stolen during part of that because they're going to use that to extort, okay, let's just sue the hospital out of existence after that happens, right? And so we've created this law that's really hurting our health sector. Set aside casinos and other things, right? I mean, you brought up HIPAA as being kind of the progenitor of all this. I think it's crazy, and I think we need a national privacy statute that supersedes states' rights for this private right of action. Yes, I do.
I like that. I like that. All right, let's talk about another huge change that seems to be coming down the pipe. The government, for those that don't know, if you're a government defense contractor, you comply with what they call the Cyber Maturity Model Certification, CMMC. It's just being rolled out to defense contractor. Very rigorous standard. It's got two levels. One is self-assessed, another one is assessed by what they call a C3PAO.
Right?
And you can even be assessed by the government if you have, top secret data. But now they're talking about extending this to any federal agency and any contractor that works anywhere in the government. Huge.
Well,
What does this mean?
I'm not sure, right? I don't think from that report that all contracting organizations are going to have to comply with CMMC. What it says is all federal agencies must provide contractors with a standard form to allow them to identify CUI, right? Controlled Unclassified Information. And what happens after that is unknown. But it did mention there will be CUI handling and training requirements. All right, so I've been through PCII training, right? Protected Critical Infrastructure Information. And it's pretty light. So the impact on organizations may be only that, but hey, CUI is CUI. And if they're not required to at least, attest to appropriate controls, this would be, and people will challenge it on this basis, inconsistent application of policy. Somebody's going to throw a flag on that. I think if anywhere, that's where this is going right now, but we got to watch. This is brand new.
Well, we still have the same problem with self-attestation is that I say and I'm doing it. We have a breach.
That's right.
Holy smokes, I was not doing that. Who's going to come in and fix that, punish that, address that? How's that going to work?
Well, the only thing I can think of is, the Federal Trade Commission and their False Claims Act, right? Because that's usually where that shows up, right? You said something, you made a public statement that turned out not to be true, all right? And, because the power of the government purse is a really strong motivator, the good thing is this might just push some companies into getting their houses in order, so as not to be frozen out of federal contracts, even though it's outside the DoD, right? If the GSA is hiring some consultants, okay, well, they should probably have a secure network too and use, good password management, all that other stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, we'll see. We got to see where this goes.
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, it makes a lot of sense. Let's secure everybody, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're running out of time here, but let's talk about a kind of a weird. Would you tell me what weird thing happened this week that you're going to leave everybody with? Something strange in our space that boggles the mind.
Yeah. So, I like to bang on AI, hallucinating and Waymo cars driving or stuff like. So, um, this is a guy who got sick of all of the scrapers coming by, the AI crawlers coming by and pulling data off of his site, to use for training models, right? He got tired of that. So now this comes from Ars Technica, and the guy is being kept anonymous for what's probably a good reason. So he wrote this, what is really malware that engages the AI bots that are sweeping by and feeds them gibberish. Okay, it's formally called Markov babble. All right, and it's designed specifically to poison AI models, so it can trap these crawlers and send them down this infinite maze of static files with no exit links, and they get stuck and they can thrash around for months. So I guess, the artificial intelligence active resistance is now a thing, right? All right, we got to get out of here. I think we're out of time, man.
Yeah. Okay.
All
Hey,
right.
thank you, Mike. It's been great.
Yep. Be sure and sign up for the Infosec Insider News Blast on the Lumify site. Come to our free security awareness training on the last Friday of every month, but not tomorrow. And watch the site for upcoming events because we promise to not be boring. See you later, Fred.
Thanks. See you, Mike.